Well, look at you. You've made it to Chapter 5. Well done. Unit 2 comprises of two chapters, Chapters 4 and Chapter 5. And this is the last chapter of Unit 2. So after Chapter 5, we will be doing a test. So these are important skills you need to be comfortable with and understand because it will be a major portion of test number 2. And as the slide says, it has to do with recipe conversions and yields. So let's begin. Here we have a recipe that makes 12 large muffins. And if we use this amount of these ingredients and bake our muffins, we will get 12 tasty muffins. Well, what we want to do now is we want to make 30 muffins, and then we want to make 80 muffins. So how much of each ingredient am I going to need to make 30 or to make 80 muffins? This is what the conversion factor formula is all about. And it's a simple one. To figure out how much of each ingredient I need to make 30 muffins, I'm going to take my new yield. In this example, my new yield is 30 muffins, and I'm going to divide it by my original yield. My original recipe makes 12. So 30 divided by 12 equals 2.5. This is the conversion factor. This is the number I'm going to use to multiply each of these ingredient amounts so I know how much I need of each ingredient so I can get 30 muffins. So to make it very quickly, since it's the same formula all the way down, I take my conversion factor and multiply it by 325 grams. I need 813 grams of all-purpose flour. I need my conversion factor of 2.5 times 125 grams of natural bran. I need 313 grams to make 30 muffins. It's the same formula all the way down. My new yield of 30 divided by my original yield of 12, my conversion factor is 2.5. I'm going to do the same thing right here. I want 80 muffins. I'm going to divide 80 by the original yield of 12, and if I do that, I get rounded to 2 decimal places, 6.67. As I did here, I'm going to use my conversion factor of 6.67 and multiply each ingredient amount from my original recipe, which gave me 12. So I get something that looks like this. 325 grams times my conversion factor, 2,168 grams. 125 grams of natural bran times my conversion factor. I need 834 grams. And I do the same thing all the way down. So now I know exactly how much I need of each ingredient to make 12 muffins, to make 30 muffins, or to make 80 muffins. Let's take a look at it. We'll use a smaller recipe here. This recipe makes 20 sugar donuts. I want 38 and I want 76. So my new yield of 38 divided by my original yield of 20. Here is my conversion factor for 38 muffins, 1.9. I take 1.9, I multiply all of these ingredient amounts. Oh, look, here's how much I need to make 38 sugar donuts. Same thing here. My new yield is 76 muffins. I'm going to divide it by my original yield of 20, and my conversion factor is now 3.8. Take the conversion factor of 3.8, multiply it by each of the original amounts, and then I know exactly how much I need so I could buy the ingredients I want for 76 sugar donuts. Life would be simple if everything was just about portion amounts, but every now and again, not only do we want more portions, but we want a different portion size. So that means we have to add one extra step to this, and then everything else is exactly the same. So in this particular recipe, I can get 64 soft dinner rolls, and each dinner roll is 1.25 ounces each. So my original recipe makes 64 dinner rolls at 1.25 ounces each. But now my new yield, I want 140 portions, and I want them to be 2 ounces in size. So not only do I want more portions than my original recipe, I want a bigger dinner roll than what my original recipe makes. Luckily, it's just one easy step, and the rest of the way is the same thing. So what I need to do, I still need to divide my new yield by my original yield. But the extra step is I'm going to multiply the amount of portions I now want by the size of the portions that I want. So 140 portions times 2 ounces each. I want 280 ounces as my new yield. But I'm going to divide that by my original yield of 64 portions at 1 1/4 ounces each. So 64 times 1.25 is 80. My new yield is 280 ounces. My original yield was 80 ounces. 280 divided by 80, my conversion factor is 3.5. I'm going to multiply my conversion factor times each ingredient amount so that I now see this is how much I need for each ingredient, so that I can go from 64 portions at 1 1/4 ounces and yield 140 portions at 2 ounces each. Pretty simple. Pretty handy. This not only tells me how much I need to buy, but now that I know how much of each ingredient I need, I can also quickly calculate the cost of all of this, but that's for the next chapter. Let's take a look at one last example. A very small recipe. This one makes some croissants. My original recipe makes 12 1.5 ounce croissants. And to get that, here's how much I need of these ingredients. Well, I want 85 portions, but I want them to be 2 ounces in size. So just as I did on my last example, I'm going to multiply the amount of portions I now want by the portion size that I now want. And 85 times 2 ounces, I want 170 ounces of croissant mix. And I'm going to divide it by my original recipe, which gave me 12 croissants at 1.5 ounces each, or 12.1.5, 18. My new yield divided by my original yield gives me a conversion factor of 9.44. As we've done with all of these conversions, I now take my conversion factor and multiply it by the amounts of ingredients in my recipe, and I now need 1,130 grams of butter to give me this new yield, and so on for each ingredient. It always boils down to the new yield divided by the original yield. The portion sizes were different, so I multiply the portion sizes I want by the new portion size, and I divide it by the original portion amount times the original portion size. Again, 170 divided by 18 to give me 9.44. My conversion factor is multiplied by the original ingredient amounts. I now know exactly how much I need to give me my new yield. Really, really handy. Very, very easy. Takes a little practice. Guess what I'm going to say? You want to succeed? Practice, practice, practice.